Okay, we have a green box, we have a live counter ticking up, so we should now be live, which of course means welcome back to the Storytime Network. We are back with some Hollow Knight. I didn't mean to do that, but fuck it, it's fine.
What Mill means is that we're back to ranting in a maddening rave while Mill plays Hollow Knight in the background.
Oh yeah, I mean that's... I think if there's a stream with like the two of us there, people have to know by now what they're getting from it.
It's bold of you to assume that those people exist. Nah, but we do get some views on the VOD, so it's fine.
We are actually managing to get a nicely consistent amount of YouTube views. In that we're actually getting some YouTube views, which surprises me.
It's weird, but cool. It's weird, but I'll allow it.
Like, I'm like happy that we're just getting views to begin with. We sort of got into this whole streaming game quite late to actually, you know, be popular.
Get any sort of following, yes.
Yeah.
In something of a departure from tradition, our first topic is brought by Mill, which is a departure from tradition, because usually it's me ranting into the void.
I mean, it's basically like, if you went into the, our history and politics chat, Fuzzy, like...
oh no. I'm already scared.
So basically what it was is, saw some fucking... like dickweed trying to say, "Oh, I'm allowed to be bigoted to trans people based on, you know, my religious beliefs," and it's like, does the Bible actually like prohibit trans people?
So, as a religious person, I must say we don't associate with that guy.
Oh, I mean, obviously, yes. I mean, just as human beings in general, we don't associate with that person.
Yeah, but it's a weird thing, right? Because like a lot of it depends on which book you're talking about, but most of it involves butt stuff. I mean, really, it seems the big hang-up is butt stuff.
I mean, technically, it's not even butt stuff, because isn't it like you will not lay with another man as a man does a woman?
Yeah, that's true. So technically,
to quote Helsing Ultimate Abridged, so it's kosher if I'm not fucking a dude in the vagina.
Yeah, well, yes, that is in the most literal interpretation. You know what's funny? The most literal interpretation of that line is mostly transphobic, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
If you think about it. But no, it's like... it's very unclear, especially with the Old Testament, which I think Leviticus is in the Old Testament. Like, I don't know, look...
I mean, the overall point is that the Bible was written however many, 2,000 years ago now.
Well, the New Testament, the Old Testament was like long before that.
Yeah. Either way, thousands of years ago. It's been translated...
It's also been run through the historical equivalent of running the same sentence through Google Translate.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Every language you can think of.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like, if you translate anything enough times, it becomes gibberish. I
mean, the big thing, really, is that you have to remember that the King James Bible is possibly one of the... despite being one of the most common, is also probably one of the least reliable translations. Because there are very old, maybe not original copies, but there are very old copies that didn't go through the game of Google Translate telephone that many times, at least, like maybe from Hebrew to Aramaic or like something along those lines.
Yeah.
Those copies exist, and I bet you they're very different from the ones that exist today.
Mm. I mean, you know, the other thing is that... Oh boy. I've ended up in a bad place. Yeah. The other thing, of course, is that, like, who it was translated by, which is, you know...
Yes, there's the agenda issue as well.
Which is by men with distinct fucking, agendas. Like,
Yep.
who, you know, absolutely wanted, you know, wanted to
Yeah,
be able...
no, it was absolutely, you can blame the patriarchy for that one.
Yeah, no, basically, yes.
You can blame the patriarchy for many things, as you should.
Hmm.
But this is a nice little segue on the subject of blame, Mill.
Hmm.
Let me take you on a journey.
Oh.
A journey of freedom, responsibility, compromise, and the fallacy of relative privation.
Right.
Also known as Fuzzy makes a half-hour-long argument in order to rant about We Never Learn.
I mean, I won't stop you from ranting about We Never Learn. You know that I don't like it either.
Yes, but no, I have a very I have a very specific path I want to take to get there.
Right.
So, let me ask you a very, very uncomfortable question, Mel.
Right.
Where do you think is the line where freedom of choice and responsibility intersect?
So,
breaking
you
your brain a
know,
little bit.
yeah, so I'm just trying to wrap my head around it while also, you know, playing the game. So basically, at what point do you have to think, okay, yes, I feel like I should be able to do whatever I want, but not at the sake of other people, sort of thing? Like, at what point does my choice
yes.
cause problems for myself and other people, sort of
Well,
thing?
not necessarily even in the sense of causing problems. It's like, at what point do your choices... It not necessarily causing problems, but like affecting others, and how does that affect your own social responsibility? Well, let me give you the example I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
It's not the example I'm thinking of specifically, but let me give you an illustrative example. So, you're familiar with the fallacy of relative privation, I'm sure, if not by that name. The idea that you should finish everything that's on your plate because there are children starving in Africa.
Right, yeah.
You know, that whole fallacy.
Yes.
It's a fallacious argument, hence the fallacy.
Yeah.
But that does lead to an interesting question on the subject of waste.
Mm.
So obviously, the whole idea of cleaning your plate because there are people who are worse off than you is fallacious.
Yes.
But does there come a point where it is no longer fallacious, where a certain amount of is there a level of wastefulness at which that is no longer fallacious, where you do have to think about social responsibility?
Yes.
Yes, and I think that, yeah, and what I'm asking is, where do you think that line is? on any given thing. Like, you don't have to make it general. You can think of a specific thing, and where do you think the line is? Like food waste, for example. If you're wasting, let's say a 4-person household is consuming like consuming and then throwing away a large part of like an 8-person household's worth of meals. Right? Like, let's say you're buying twice as much as you need and then throwing away like 3/4 of it.
Mm-hmm.
Or even if you if you are as generous as possible, you are throwing away half of it.
Right.
Is that a level of waste at which you are starting to shirk social responsibility?
It's an interesting question. It really is. I mean, just from a personal point of view, I could not imagine. I'm one of those people who finishes everything. Like, my meals are.
Oh no, I
my meals
usually
are set for me. Like the
no, I'm like, I am the same way. Yeah.
Like the only example that I can think of where there will be something on my plate that I will not eat is, the fat on meat. Because I'm like, well, it doesn't taste nice, and I'm fairly sure it's incredibly unhealthy for me.
It's also not. I don't think it counts.
Yeah.
Really, right? Like, it's not. Yes, it's nutritionally dense technically, but it's like also, well, it's calorically dense, but it's nutritionally bad enough that you are probably
I feel
at a
like
net positive.
I feel like it'd probably be similar to like the peel of an orange, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's much more dense calorically, but
Yes,
it's just
but,
very bad for you.
It's a
but
part
no.
of the food that you're not necessarily supposed to eat. You can if you're a bit weird like that, which, obviously no judgment. If you want to fucking eat it, it's your body.
The orange peels or the fat, because one of those things I might judge a little bit.
Both. Fuck you. I don't care. Eat what you want. I'm really like. Eating is one of those things where I'm like, okay, there's enough shit in the world. If you get pleasure from eating, just eat.
I think I should clarify. I just don't understand why you would eat orange
I
peel.
don't understand why you would do it anyway. But it's not my place to judge.
No, I guess yeah. From that point of view, I also don't really care what you put in your mouth as long as you don't put it in my mouth.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like, so from personal point of view, like, wasting half of your food seems so extreme and exorbitant. And the fact is, if you can, if you can afford to do that, because that's the thing. If you're buying twice the amount of food that you actually eat, surely your food bill is so much larger than it should be. And if you can afford to actually do that and not make a change, then it seems to say you've got more money than you really, should or know what to do with. So at that point, I would argue, probably yes. If you have enough food, if you have enough money that you can buy twice as much food as you actually consume and chuck half of it, yeah, you could probably be doing something a lot better with that money.
So, yeah, here's the thing.
I mean,
food is perhaps the most extreme example, but do you know what's a much more...
I mean, I'm not even saying, buy food to give to charities. I'm just saying donate to a fucking charity. Because a lot of these charities will do something like, 4 or 5 quid a month. And if you're spending, let's say your food bill is, 120 quid a shop. Like... or $120 a shop, whatever you want to say. If you can halve that, that's $60 a shop, which generally will probably be about once a week, maybe a little bit less, depending on depending on how you feel and the stuff that you're buying and the shelf life of the stuff that you're buying. So that's 60 bucks, 60 quid a week, which comes out at, what is that? 240, 250 bucks a month.
Yeah, you're looking at like over $4,000 or $5,000 a year, easy.
Like, yeah, fucking donate some of that to charity, you fucking bougie shits.
But no, like I bring up food as the example, but this idea of wastage can really apply to anything. I think something that is more realistic and that happens more often than food is clothes. I feel like a lot of people buy clothes but like wear the same three outfits.
Okay, here's something that may be a little bit weird about me. I make sure I wear every shirt that I own, pretty much. Because I have a fuck ton of t-shirts, either that I have bought or because I went through quite a long period of getting one of those loot crates for anime, and they would
Oh no.
quite often have shirts in them. So I've got a ton of anime shirts from anime that I've never watched and probably will never watch, because I at least know some of them are garbage, but I will still wear the shirts. The one shirt that I did refuse to wear that I got from a loot crate was an Attack on Titan one, so, you know. But yeah, so
You say that, but I do have images that
Oh no,
are.
I have the fucking scout cloak as well, but that one was an extravagant purchase that I just. It's less that it's Attack on Titan and more that it's just a really nice cloak. And
Look,
I am
I
chuny
will
enough to
allow it,
like wearing a
but
cloak.
no, I never disputed that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so here's
But
the thing. Obviously, I used the most extreme example, but clearly there is a less extreme level that still is that, right? And then you get to some of the more abstract things that are not necessarily, and this is something that's very important in the modern day, especially in the climate we live in. For example, social media.
Go on.
And we are discounting the obvious bad actors. But I have to imagine that there is a critical point at which of like followers or people like influenced by you on like social media or like any platform really. If your platform reaches more than a certain number of people, does that mean that some of your freedoms are restricted in the name of the public good?
So this is a very interesting question, because it is one that's, or certainly the thing that's coming to my mind is something that I well, I haven't got experience with personally, but like I've sort of seen it in action of is it morally right for an account with followers in the tens of thousands to quote retweet an account with far less and therefore basically sick their followers on this person?
That's an angle I had not considered it from. I thought it was more of a. I was considering it more from the angle of like, at what point do you have a certain level of responsibility to have a bit of awareness over what you're talking about, in the sense that if you say the wrong thing or endorse something harmful, you are causing more harm to society than
Oh,
good.
that's what you meant by bad actors. Okay. I think you do. I mean, I think you, honestly, to a certain extent, I think you have a responsibility regardless of how,
Yes,
much of a
obviously.
celebrity you are.
But
and frankly,
I think...
and this is a sentiment I've seen a couple of times over the last sort of week or two. We really need to popularize the concept of I don't know enough about this subject, therefore I'm not going to weigh in.
Well, yeah, but
I'm
that
going
is
to
absolutely one of the things I'm talking
direct you
about.
to
Ignorance is
people.
absolutely one of those things.
Yeah.
However, there are more subtle things that, well, not necessarily subtle, but more polarizing things that I think. So let me just bring up an example.
Mm.
And I'm sure there are other things, but this is the most recent one that I can think of. And it's a video game that rhymes with Slognort Mebedny.
Oh, did you see the big argument we had in history and politics about
Recently or
quite
like
recently? Yeah.
I have not I can only handle that channel in short bursts.
That's fair. But
I
yeah,
check it like once a week.
there was a fairly big argument in there. And I don't think the person on the other side of the argument was necessarily wrong, but I do think it's a somewhat privileged take on the whole thing.
But yeah, so like here's the thing. A lot of people were unfairly attacked for playing that game, and I do think it was an unfair attack.
Okay.
How because like you shouldn't your first response to that sort of like, and this may sound harsh, but I do call it ignorance. Your first response to that sort of ignorance should not, in my opinion, be harassment or attacks. It should be an attempt to inform or like actually engage with the topic in good faith. So I am not a fan of the people who harassed, especially I saw this a lot in the VTuber community.
Mm-hmm.
Where
yes,
people
would I think there was quite a famous example of that, yes.
There was a famous example of that, but like I think that this is just more, that was more of something that was very common, and that was just the most famous one. But a lot of people, to them, they don't really follow the issue. Right? So they were just like, oh, it wizard game I play. Right?
Okay, so I have an argument against that. This is
no. I also have an argument.
I'm letting you speak, but I do have a.
No, I'm pretty sure our argument against that is the same, and I'm about to, or it could be as a variation of the same. If you don't know, that's fine initially.
Mm.
However, the moment people start bringing it up and you understand that there is a wider social context, what I feel you should not do, and what most of those people did, is double down.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of it is out of spite, and a lot of it is down to the fact that, quite frankly, and I say this from a place of begrudging love, most streamers, I would say, are not, shall we say, the most functional of people in terms of
oh no, you probably have to be a little bit fucked up to put yourself through this.
Not only do you have to, I think you have to be a little bit like different from the general populace to even make something of yourself in this industry.
Mm.
And it not necessarily in a good way. And I don't mean in terms of neurodivergence. I mean just like, there's neurodivergent and then there's weird. And this is something I do believe. That's not a bad thing in and of itself. But it really says something when the streamers who are whose entire brand is that they're just normal dudes and or ladies. They're just normal human beings. Well, you know what I mean. Normal, as
Yeah.
in statistically average human beings are like treated as rare specimens that you gawk at.
Yeah.
It should say something. But yeah, this is just the general idea, is that it is okay to start from a place of ignorance, but when the moment someone with an audience realizes there is a wider context and that there is a level of social responsibility, and then they double down anyway, that's when I stop sympathizing.
Yes.
Now, is your argument against it similar to what I was gonna say?
No.
Okay.
My
I would like to hear
argument
it.
is that if you are a streamer, you are online enough to know the controversy.
Okay. That is true and false, because a lot of streamers tend to put themselves inside of something of a bubble. A lot of people really just tend to put themselves inside a little bit of an echo chamber. And especially, like, after a streamer reaches a certain size, they tend to just ignore anything that does not immediately concern them. At least from what I've seen. So yes, I think also a lot of streamers are surprisingly too busy being online to be online, if you know what I'm saying.
I guess.
But no, you are absolutely making a valid argument. I'm just saying that there are possible exceptions to that, but that is absolutely a valid argument. But even in the case of those exceptions, when you're coming at it from a place of genuine ignorance and then are told of the social consequences and then still double down, that's when it becomes not okay for me.
My point is also that, like, enough was made of it surrounding the game that I just don't see how you can't have known about the controversy surrounding it.
I mean,
like, maybe I am being too harsh, but that's...
So I think the important thing is, like, how many people, and I have to imagine there's a pretty large this is where, with this specific example, and I'm sure there's parallels with other examples, how many people do you think, like, read Harry Potter as kids, loved it, and then never heard from J.K. Rowling again?
Probably most of them.
Yeah, that's the thing,
honestly,
right? Like,
I didn't hear about J.K. Rowling until the tweets controversy started coming up, and I was unfortunately quite a big Harry Potter fan.
And there's a lot of people who just, like, do not even engage with creatives after consuming their works.
Again, though, you know, it's a case of there were so many articles about this. So many articles just talking
about... How many people actually read those articles?
No, I'm not even talking about articles about Rowling in general. I'm talking about articles about Hogwarts Legacy. I'm just going to come out and say it. About Hogwarts Legacy that mention the controversy. And at that point, I do think it is, you know, up to you to go, okay, there's this controversy. I should look this up now.
And yeah, and if you get to that point and don't do it and then still double down, then yes, it's your fault. I'm very hesitant to say that harassing people is okay. I don't think... I'm not saying
so
that
this was also some of the content of the argument we had. So I do not condone the harassment. I don't.
I don't condone most harassment.
But at the same time, I can understand the level of reaction that this caused. Because this is such a minor thing to do. In the
That's
in the
really
wider context of trans rights, this is such a minor thing to do, and some of these streamers couldn't even be bothered to do that.
And it's like, it's not just, well, so again, I'm playing devil's advocate. I don't actually sympathize with these streamers at all, but you are forgetting one important factor.
Which I assume you mean the algorithm.
No, well, cold hard cash.
Well, that's
Of
more
which
what I
the
mean with the
algorithm is a large
algorithm.
part.
That's
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
what I mean
Yeah.
with the
So
algorithm.
like, yeah, for a lot of people, it's just like the paycheck is big enough that they can ignore trans rights, which is not okay, but like,
I mean, yeah, that would be
realistic.
that would be like, the point is that I know of streamers who didn't play Hogwarts Legacy, and it's like, well, if they can do it, then surely.
Well, yeah, it's all about it's all a matter of like, there are people who have principles.
Yeah.
Well, no, everyone has principles to some extent, I think. It's just people have different lines, and I think most people are willing to get a slightly reduced paycheck, because, like, I imagine if they're big enough streamers, they'll get a similar viewership regardless of what they're
Exactly.
playing.
There were other games out at the time that they could have played, is the point.
Now, well,
here,
you know what?
Here is the person that, look, I don't always agree with him. Like, I think he's a little harsh sometimes. But in terms of his stance on what he is willing to do for money, I cannot agree more, which is a guy called Carl Smallwood. He's basically the on-screen face of a channel called Fact Fiend. Which is a really good channel. I would recommend checking it out. Like, it's a really interesting, like, look, and it's through the voice of a guy from, I think, Sheffield. So it's always nice to see more Yorkshire-born people out in the ether. But he is very adamant that even if, you know, even just allowing fucking bigots to watch his stuff would gain him more money and allow him to provide better for himself and his friends who are his staff, he's not willing to do it. He will outright tell them to fuck off.
Yeah, and like, the thing is, not everyone have that. And I think a lot of people just, like, again, this is gonna make me some enemies, but I don't think it's anything like people haven't said. It requires a certain level of maturity to say, well, I want to do what I want to just play what I want, regardless, and not think too much about it. But like, I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
It takes a certain level of maturity, and I think that is. Look, again, you can read between the lines of what I'm trying to say. I think another recent example of this, Diablo 4.
Yeah.
It is by all means one of the best games of the year so far. Like, by many it is critically acclaimed. It is apparently everything fans of the genre have wanted since Diablo 2.
Oh, Diablo 2.
However,
I remember playing that and getting really annoyed because it had a fucking code that I lost, so I couldn't play it anymore.
Oh no.
That was always
But
dumb to me.
You wanna, like, do a Path of Exile co-op stream at some point? It's Diablo 2, but made by less crappy people.
Less scummy people. Maybe.
No, actually, now that I think about it, no, I'm pretty sure it's Diablo 2 made by the people who made Diablo 2.
Oh, it's just not the company.
Yeah. Less scummy company.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's usually not the developer's fault.
No.
If anything, the developers are often victims.
Yeah.
But no, but yeah, Diablo 4. Great game.
Mm-hmm.
Just absolute refuse pit of a company.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, if you're playing Diablo 4, you shouldn't. Morally speaking.
No, you are probably right.
It's the same with, like, oh, look, I'm gonna, again, make myself some enemies of the Nintendo fanboys, because those people are very strange. Probably shouldn't play Tears of the Kingdom after, Nintendo, you know, forced a man into indentured servitude.
Yeah.
For a lifetime. It's really not okay for any company to do that. But that didn't stop anyone from playing Tears of the Kingdom, so it's like, Hogwarts Legacy, I think, got so much flack because of how broad a brush Rowling painted with. Because
so the issue is more that it is trans rights is basically this new front in the culture war that the right wing wants to wage.
Yes,
and
I think the thing is, I'm saying the reason it is it got as much exposure as it did is because it's more large. It's the most large scale. But the thing is, you don't have to be shitty on a large scale to be bad.
Oh.
Case in point, Nintendo, Activision Blizzard, friggin' I'm sure, like, Konami and Ubisoft, and I'm every game company, really. But, like, the entire entertainment industry, like, I think the problem is that, like, the trans rights is an entire, like, identity of people. Like, it is, like, trans rights are an issue that it is a human rights issue.
Yes.
At its core. And with, like, ActiBliz and Nintendo, while they are a human rights issue, they are specific people's rights as opposed to the rights of humanity as a whole.
Yes.
That are being violated. And therein, that's why it got less exposure. But yeah, it's that is one of the things, is like, if you have a platform, there is a time when you have a certain degree of social responsibility, and not recognizing that is anything ranging from immaturity to willful ignorance.
Yeah. And I just want to say, while we're on the subject of Hogwarts Legacy, there was one channel that I followed that I was kind of legit worried would play it. A lot of the streamers that I follow, and I don't follow that many in the grand scheme of things, just because I don't have the fucking time to watch all of them. I barely watch all of them to begin with, but most of them I knew are progressive enough that they probably wouldn't touch it. Again, mostly because most of the streamers I follow are in some way, shape, or form associated with TFS, and they are a very progressive company. Even if they've accidentally discovered that there are no women allowed.
Yeah, that was a fun discovery.
That was such a funny realization. You could just see the look on Scott's face of, oh God, this is so accidental but so funny. Isn't it? I mean, obviously, you know, nothing. I don't think it's anything intentional. It is just the way.
It's definitely not, considering the sheer amount of, like, allyship and diversity and everything else that they've shown. No, it's not intentional. It's just a hilarious coincidence.
It is just a hilarious coincidence. But yeah, so I was fairly sure I didn't have anything to worry about from them. But the one that I was worried with is a reaction channel that I watched that I think I've mentioned, Blind Wave.
Yes, you have mentioned that.
Because while they are progressive, I wasn't sure how far it would be
and
taken.
like, let's be real, any reaction channel is like that. You'd lose points just automatically.
That's the thing. I wouldn't watch them if I didn't think they were progressive. And they genuinely are.
No, it's not even about being progressive. It's just about, like, I am not a fan of reaction-based content.
No, and that's fair. And I've tried to watch other reactors before. I've not liked them, but I like Blind Wave because they're decent dudes and they legit come at it from an interesting angle sometimes, and from an analytical angle quite a lot of the time.
Yes, that is the only exception to. That is like the only exception I would cite is like, well, there's two exceptions: analysis and creators reacting to content, either their own content, like as a commentary, or like I'm kind of a fan of the whole. I know it's a bit tacky, but the developers react to their games being speedrun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember. Double Fine did something like that for Psychonauts 2. That was a lot of fun.
IGN does one of those, like, one a week.
Yeah.
Of creator reacts to video game speedrun.
Yeah, but my point is that for 30-something white guys from, I think, like, Ohio, they are surprisingly progressive. And the fact that they didn't play Hogwarts Legacy was actually, like, really nice. And I was really pleased to see that.
The only streamer I follow is a 34-year-old Canadian father whose brand identity is he's bald but otherwise a regular dude. It's very refreshing.
Yeah.
He's also like, a lot of the conversations we have are things that he touches upon just in his stream. In fact, this whole endless stream of consciousness where I just talk into the void for hours on end?
Is that for him?
I am emulating. I'm emulating him, yes. Right, because my man has played The Binding of Isaac for 5,000 hours.
Wow, okay.
On YouTube.
Jesus Christ.
And literally, there was a time... The series ended, like, a couple of years ago, and it was, like, a tragic end of an era.
Yeah.
But my mans would put out a 30 to 40-minute video every day that is just him talking into a microphone while playing The Binding of Isaac. With no chat or audience. Just himself, stream of consciousness.
Wow.
And it is some of the most entertaining nonsense I have ever watched.
Wow, okay.
This is a lot of my humor is from there. But anyway, yeah, so he also, understandably, was like, nope, not touching that Hogwarts Legacy with a 10-foot pole. He tends to basically steer clear of anything that's like... Mostly it's because he's something of a coward. So he's like, controversy. Nope.
Yeah.
But yes, no. So that is one of the things. Now here is the other angle I'm approaching it from. Is there a point... What's the opposite of privation? Excess, I suppose?
So I don't really know what privation means on its own, so,
a lack in some way, shape, or... Well, it's similar to deprivation, but I think less, active.
Alright, give me a second, because this is one of those games where I can actually click off and the window
Consult
won't
the
close,
Google.
so...
Consult the Oracle, Mill. Consult the Elder Gods. MK1 is coming. Pretty excited for that. I don't play the MK games, I just like... Well, I played a lot of Mortal Kombat as a child, which...
Alright, how are we spelling privation?
Priva.
Okay, there we go. A state in which food and other essentials for well-being are lacking.
So a more specific version of deprivation.
Hmm.
So let's just classify them as lacking and a surplus.
Yes.
Does there come a point of surplus where you have a social responsibility to give something back?
I think there is an argument to be had, yes.
Now, here's the tricky question.
When is that? When does that point come?
Well, no. Does that responsibility override freedom of choice? Like, let's say you have the golden number, and you have someone pass that.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, we're not talking about the extreme cases. We're not talking about billionaires, because obviously they are the antithesis to that.
Yes, okay. That's
obviously.
Okay, billionaires are a different case. That's fair.
Yeah, because billionaires are by their very existence creatures that are antithetical to social welfare and social good. But let's say you have a fully paid off home and car, low expenses, and are bringing in 6 figures a year.
It's 100,000.
And you are not spending nearly that much. Do you have some level of social responsibility? And is your right to... At what point does the social responsibility overtake your freedom of choice? And this is not something that is exclusively material. For example, let's say you have a rare blood type. And you are healthy and eligible to give blood. Do you at some point have something of a moral obligation to give blood? Even if you don't want to? Right? It's in the more... I'm more interested in the more abstract questions. In that regard. And then we touch upon something incredibly abstract, like talent. If you are good at something, are you obligated to pursue it? And I would say no. You are not necessarily obligated to pursue it, but is it a waste if you do not pursue it? Is this conversation perhaps too heavy for...
I don't think it's too heavy. I just think it's I mean, this is basically philosophy 101, isn't it? Maybe not 101.
Please do not put that evil on me.
This is philosophy, Fuzzy.
Look,
this is morals and ethics.
I can accept that, but can we not call it that? Because if we start calling it that, then the philosophy majors are gonna come out of the woodworks, and I don't like those people. I've met, like, more philosophy majors than I'd care to admit, and without a doubt, they have all been insufferable people. Like,
I don't think you're
any,
necessarily wrong.
like,
I took one
take
philosophy
it,
class. Well, yeah, I basically took a taste of philosophy class before the start of A level to see if I'd like it, and I fucking hated it, and I hated the teacher.
yes, that's the thing, because these are interesting questions to talk about, but there are people who make talking about philosophy their entire personality and identity. And those are the people who later go on to teach philosophy.
Yeah.
Like, no one's gonna be like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool, let's talk about it. No, they're going to be like, break out the Shakespearean English and, like, soliloquize. And I know that's not a word, but if Shakespeare can make up words, so can I. God damn it. He may not have even been one guy. He might have been like 3 guys in a trench coat. We don't know.
I mean, that's an interesting argument that I'm not sure has been sort of popularized, because the whole, oh, Shakespeare didn't write Shakespeare's plays thing has been done to death by conspiracy theorists. Has been one where I was like, no, it was just a group of fucking people.
Really?
I don't know. I don't know. That's the thing.
Yeah,
I haven't really, done research into that thing. So I'm gonna, going back to what I said earlier, I'm not an expert in this. I'm not going to really put an opinion forward of has it happened or not. If it has happened, I think it'd be really interesting.
Yeah, I think it would make sense. Like, it's certainly one of the more sensical ones that it was just like a group of
people,
like,
yeah.
Maybe even it could have even been like just a theater troupe that bounced ideas off of each other while doing their plays, right? Like, they just like published under a single name because that would make it seem more credible. It's not like there's not precedent for that. Historically speaking. But yeah, anyway, yeah, so, like, if you are talented at something, like, let's say you are just a natural-born musician, right? You got perfect pitch, you can instinctively pick up...
Okay, I don't think we should go for that one first. Or
Why?
I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not. We shouldn't go for that one first. But it's not the one we should rely on. Because.
Oh, elaborate.
So I mean, if we're going at this from an ethical point of view.
Well, not necessarily ethical, right?
Or moral point of view.
Or not necessarily moral or ethical. I'm not saying that it's like, is it wrong? I'm saying, at what point is it a waste? And would it be... And this is why I was talking about the fallacy of relative privation, is like, if a person who is talented chooses not to use their talents in a world of talentless people, is that insulting to some degree to the talentless people out there? Of course, I'm biased saying this as a talentless person, but, like, prodigies exist, and prodigies who do not choose to...
So, this is a really interesting... The fact that you have brought this up is really interesting, because it comes back to...
Yes! And now we are back
Victoria
to...
versus Todoroki Sports Festival.
Oh my god. Oh my god, that's not... I hadn't even thought of that.
Is that not what you were gonna say?
No, I was gonna bash the love interests in We Never Learn.
Oh,
that's
okay.
their entire thing.
Okay. No.
Look, to it for the last power
I'm
mill.
sorry, Fuzzy. I'm sorry, but I'm too
No.
much. I'm too much of a Totodeku stan to not have that
No.
fucking.
It's more interesting. Honestly, I think rather than just me bashing We Never Learn for the 100th time, I would love to hear your filthy shipper brains take on this.
Well, I mean, it's a case. There is a difference there, to be fair, because the point
There
is,
is, yes.
the point is that I think if Todoroki hadn't have been trying to be a hero, Izuku wouldn't have forced him. It was the fact that he was trying to be a hero, but still half-assing it, that was getting his goat. Is that what the kids say nowadays? Getting his goat? That felt unnatural for me to say.
I love the fact that you said it and hope that you say it more often in the future.
It felt really weird for me to say it, not gonna lie.
That's why I hope you say it more in the future.
But yeah, the point was that, you know, Todoroki was going to hit a point where his ice wouldn't have been enough. I mean, he constantly hit it, you know, throughout the series has hit it. Where
he did,
you know, not even his fire, not even his ice and fire has been enough. But you know, fucking Stain, his ice wasn't enough. His fire, to be fair, probably wouldn't have been enough even if he trained it all the way. But it still probably might have, you know, resulted in fewer injuries to, at the very least, Izuku and Todoroki.
I mean, well, here's the thing. If he'd trained fire all the way, the moment they got the hostages clear, I'm pretty sure he could have just, like, torched the entire alley.
Yeah. But to be fair, he's sort of, you know...
not exactly resistant to scorched earth.
No. But I don't think he'd do that. He's kind of too moral to do that.
Well, then you're getting into the how much force is too much force in the context of superhumans. Obviously, there's a real live discussion on police brutality, but I find that this is something that a lot of people who like, especially like this is kind of why I'm never quite in tune with Gen's opinions on Batman. I almost said Ben's opinion on Gatman.
I mean, Ben, HBI 2K might have this opinion on Batman. We don't know.
But does he have that opinion on Gatman? And anyway, Gen's opinion on Batman is something that I'm never quite able to fully sort of agree with, because the moment you throw superhumans into the equation, things change.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, to be fair, I think
I
think the better argument is for Batman is Joker. You know, at what point does, you know, Batman's moral philosophy cause more issues to society as a whole?
That is definitely a more, yeah, I think the...
And to be fair,
a very...
Avatar: The Last Airbender kind of does a similar thing. You know,
it outright did that, yeah, like where, now, granted, they did...
Oh, they
absolutely copped out.
To a certain extent, yes, but it's a children's show.
Yes, and
I can't necessarily blame them for not doing an entire arc getting into the weeds of would Aang have been right to fucking murder Ozai.
I mean, I believe the question would be, would that even have been murder? Right? Like, there is a difference between murder and killing an enemy in war.
Yeah.
Right? Like, especially when the enemy in question is the aggressor. After a certain point, that's just self-defense. But no, again, that's an entirely separate thing. But yeah, like, anytime you bring superhumans into the equation, it's like, but yeah, at what point does Batman's moral philosophy cause more harm than good is a much more interesting question to me than at what point should is a much more interesting argument to me than well, Batman's a billionaire, therefore he should die.
I mean, to be fair, the point is that Bruce Wayne does use his money to do good in the city, as far as I know. I mean,
Yes.
I'm not up on
No, he
Batman,
does.
but yeah,
Yeah, no.
I'm
Like
fairly sure he does.
explicitly, he single-handedly has the carrying the infrastructure, the public infrastructure of Gotham City on his back.
Which is sort of necessary given how much shit goes on there.
Yeah, again, it's like every time there's a decent politician, someone throws them into a vat of chemicals and they become like Snorgelblorf the Impaler.
I mean, something that I got into for a very short period because I found them fucking hilarious, and I still do. I just, don't have the energy to go read a bunch of them. Was the superhero texts thing?
It is. Those are very funny when you find there's like. I'm sure there's a lot of like misses as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think you do. I think it really depends on how up to date you are on certain heroes and that sort of thing, and their lore and all that jazz. But there was one in particular. I can't remember who the other character was, but they were like texting Batman, just like, "I can't believe how high rent prices in Gotham are." Like, what about that thing of, if there's a murder in the apartment, then the apartment price goes down, and Batman is like, that's every apartment in Gotham. It stopped affecting it.
It's like depressing but true.
Let me see if I can actually find it, because again, I can do this for Hollow Knight. I can just click off.
Like there's one good thing you can say about Gotham City. At least it's not Bloodhaven. And that's a bit of a deep cut to all my DC fans out there. It's not that deep a cut. Bloodhaven is the neighboring town that, like, Batman's dick goes to fight crime.
Yeah.
And by dick, I mean Grayson of Nightwing fame. First Robin and all that. Yeah,
I mean, something that's happened weirdly is I browse Instagram quite a lot, and like there's a lot of through my algorithms I've gotten a lot of fucking basically animated DC stuff. And I've actually been quite enjoying watching it.
Animated DC is some of the best, like, comic book content out there. Yeah. That's not something to be ashamed of. Like, animated DC is, like, very solid.
Yeah.
And most of it is self-contained, so you don't even have to know the lore.
Yeah. So, like... Yeah, I'm not sure if... I mean, the problem is actually finding a place to watch it in the UK, because I'm not really sure.
May I make a suggestion?
VPN?
Well, I was gonna say Warner Brothers doesn't need any more money.
I mean, fair.
Like,
you're
always...
fair.
Especially considering the fact that they, like, horribly underpay their animators, probably, and they probably don't... The animators only get, like, a flat salary.
If fucking Spider-Verse is getting, like, arseholey crunch, I'm fairly sure every other animated show probably is.
Yeah, no, like, not only that, they don't get any royalties or anything like that. They're basically, like, barely even full-time. They probably don't even get benefits, honestly. So, yeah, you're not really taking any money out of the creatives' pockets if you're pirating...
Probably not, no.
Any of that stuff. And then the same way that, like, you really should not have a Disney Plus subscription.
I probably shouldn't, no. I probably shouldn't.
Speaking.
At this point, I probably shouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Like, it's again, it's getting into the whole ethical responsibility thing. After a certain point, it is morally. Not only is it morally okay, it is morally better to
Yeah.
pirate certain media
Hmm.
than to put more money in their pockets.
Yeah. Um.
Again, Stephanie Sterling of the Jimquisition
Hmm.
fame, it is always morally okay to pirate Nintendo games.
Yeah. I mean, it's morally okay to pirate a lot of stuff, frankly.
Basically, anything that's not indie.
Yeah.
Any AAA game is really fair game.
I mean, to be fair,
I make
to a certain.
exceptions for stuff like manga because, yes, there is stuff going to the author there.
Hmm.
So I make an exception for something like manga. I buy all my indie games, right? Like
Yeah.
games for the most part I tend to buy. I don't buy a lot of AAA stuff. I mostly play the AAA stuff on Game
Hmm.
Pass, but like I if I want to play an indie game, I buy it. Granted, I am still I'm not made of money, so I usually wait for a sale and then
Hmm.
buy it on sale, but I still pay money for them.
Yeah.
Even if look, 90% off still means I'm paying 10%. Uh, but yeah, no, there are a lot of companies for which really any big company
Hmm.
you are morally in the right to pirate them.
Yeah. So, I mean, to a certain extent, like, I don't know, because there is stuff that that I really like, and therefore I want to support officially, so that that official support can be noted, and it might actually affect how it does. Um, I get that, but at the same time, I mean, thinking about it, that's just not happening anymore because the streaming bubble is bursting.
Yeah, that's just not how it works
And
anymore,
that's just not how it works. And
sadly.
and that is right. It's not how it works. So yeah, I don't know. I probably, if nothing else, I probably from a financial standpoint, I should probably cancel my fucking Netflix and Disney Plus subscriptions.
At the very least, the Disney Plus,
Yeah,
because that's both a financial thing and also like just a
yeah.
it's Disney.
I mean, there's no logical, logical reasoning to it really, but I just feel weird pirating stuff. Um, to a certain extent, I don't know.
I understand. I don't agree, but I understand.
Mm. Like, put it this way, I'm never gonna stop anyone else from pirating like Disney or Netflix stuff. Not a chance in hell. Um, cause yeah, like it would be what's the word? Here. Sorry, I've throughout this whole thing, I've been scrolling through the superhero text tagged with Batman to try and find this one. Um, it was with
Send it in the chat. Oh,
It was Batgirl. Can you help me find an affordable apartment? In Gotham City, it doesn't exist. I can't even afford to live in the city. Why do you think Wayne Manor is out in the middle of nowhere? What about an apartment someone died in? Those are usually cheap, right? In Gotham, that's every apartment. It's stopped affecting the price at this point.
no, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I find shit like that very funny. I've sent it to the chat regardless.
Yes, no, I will look at it, but yeah. Though on the which Batgirl is that?
I don't
Okay,
know.
that's no, yeah, it's Barbara. Um, uh, the one of the unfortunate things though is DC animation does suffer from. Look, I will still not forgive the fact that the animated adaptation of The Killing Joke, which is probably one of the quintessential Batman comics, had Batman and Batgirl banging, which is just
Yeah, apparently
gross
there's
so
one
many.
dude in DC that really likes to do that for some reason.
Yeah, there's always one. Because like he's known her since she was a literal child and is in a vaguely homoerotic subtextual situation with her father most of the time. So it's just like it's just gross.
Yeah.
It's like Goku banging Vegeta's daughter. That's just ugh. Ugh. Legitimately people who shipped Goku and Bulma.
Oh, I'm not shocked that there are people who did it. I mean, not at all shocked. But you know, it's people will ship anything. I mean, that's the thing. People will ship anything.
Ain't that the truth?
I mean, I still remember, and this still is so dumb to me. The fact that that somebody posted like a giant rant about how clearly the what was it? The director for the last Naruto movie before Bought was clearly a Naruto and Sakura shipper.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Oh wow, I'm so far away from where I died. I'm like on the other side of the map.
That does happen.
Oh boy, okay. But yeah, I could probably find it if I put some effort in. Well, I probably wouldn't even need to put that much effort in.
But yeah, well, no, I was just gonna say the other thing I was gonna say is that like if how do you feel about the whole like we kind of drifted away and like we were talking about the Totodeku stuff.
Oh yeah,
Well,
you do your We Never Learn rant.
well, no, it's just like
You were building up for us for so long. I feel bad that we derailed it.
no, it's like it's not that big a deal. I like it's not even it's something that's not going to it's something that's very personal to me and it's coming from a very ugly place and I acknowledge that. Like I have enough self-awareness that it's coming from a place of just like ugly base human envy. But it's just not specific to the We Never Learn thing, but like if I see a prodigy who actively chooses to not somehow utilize their prodigal is not the word, but like prodigious, that's actually the word. Prodigy and prodigal have a connection in my mind, even though they only have a similar spelling. But yeah, when a words are hard. When a prodigy doesn't use their prodigious skill,
Yeah.
it feels like a slap in the face to someone who is distinctly average.
I get it. At the same time, one of my big tenets is not telling people how to live their lives, as long as they're not hurting anyone in what they're doing. Like, obviously, if they're going around, like, fucking kicking the shit out of people, yeah, I'm gonna tell you to stop being a fucking asshole and beating people up. But,
It's I have a much more complicated relationship with that, because when it's not a matter of hurting people, but when it's not a matter of subtraction but rather a matter of addition, is when I have much more difficult feelings on it. When you can add to the world but are choosing not to
yeah.
in the way that you are suited for the most, that's when it feels like it comes from a place of frustration, because I've like it comes from a place of frustration because there are people who will try their entire lives and not reach the level of skill that some people are born with, despite having like a love and passion for it.
Yeah.
And it just saddens me. It just makes me sad, really. The idea that you can have that level of talent and just not pursue it.
Yeah.
Where you can like give something to the world that is meaningful with the talents that you, regardless of how you acquire them, whether it's like through the genetic lottery or whatever. That's when I start feeling a bit bitter about it.
I mean,
It's
the way I look at it is, what is the reason they're deciding not to do this? Is it because obviously there'll be some people who, this talent will be identified early on, and they'll be forced to do it every single moment of every single day because they are good at it. And they will just burn the fuck out, because even geniuses will burn out.
Yeah, burnout is, I think, a totally valid reason to not pursue it. That is definitely, of the reasons that I don't consider as valid, that's definitely not one of them. Burnout is real, and anyone can suffer from it. So yeah, burnout is definitely an exception to my own thoughts on this. But
there was another one that I had in my mind, and I've forgotten it. It might come back to me. But I don't know. I just don't... And, I'd like to come back to what I was saying before when you brought up music first. Like, there's a question of, if somebody is, like, genius level skills at, say, I don't know, heart surgery or brain surgery. Actually, an episode of House did something like this.
This does seem like House material.
Where I think it was a cancer researcher was nearing like a breakthrough on a particularly rare and quite deadly type of cancer, but then quit after she became like deathly ill. Before even reaching House, just became deathly ill and realized that she would have died without doing anything she considered, worthwhile. And the whole, basis of the episode for that was, was she was she right to sort of basically almost abandon the cause like that for the sake of her own happiness? For the sake of her being able to, say when she died, I lived a life I'm happy with. I don't think I'm getting it entirely right, but it's that sort of thing.
It's the principle
Yeah.
seems sound. Especially because, like, the reason I harp on We Never Learn in particular is, as taking that as an example, there are ways to incorporate talent into passion that I think, granted, We Never Learn is not the best example of this, because obviously it's a, look, I'm just gonna go right out and say it, it's a lazy, valueless harem comedy that is a dime a dozen.
I'm not going to disagree with you.
It's a lazy, generic, boring harem comedy, but there are people who have talent in one area, but a passion in another, and for some reason it never occurs to them that they are not mutually exclusive. If we take the examples cited of the literary genius who has a passion for mathematics and a math genius who has a passion for literature, you can incorporate one into the other. Right? Like, a lot of the most...
Okay, here's another example. There's quite a lot of examples of this in anime.
Really?
Assassination Classroom.
Okay,
Nagisa.
who in particular?
Nagisa.
Well, there's a lot of... Nagisa is kind of his own adorable little can of worms that has... I cut Nagisa some slack because he's got issues. But yes, go ahead.
Well, I mean, the point is that there is a moment, after Nagisa defeats Takaoka the first time, where Kurasuma is like, holy fuck, this kid could be really big in the assassination world. Together we could do really good things for the world. Because I like to believe Kurasuma would probably be on the right side of things. Yeah, I'm not saying that all military minds would be, but I like to think he would, if the case happened, he would direct Nagisa in a fruitful way.
I'm sure Nagisa would be able to make his own judgments.
Exactly.
Regarding
Yes,
that.
but he has this thought of, but do I dare bring him into this dangerous world of assassins, even knowing that he's got a talent for it? And Kura-sensei is like, not really our decision to make. If Nagisa decides to be an assassin, that is his decision, and I will help him towards that goal. If he decides to go somewhere else, I won't force him to go for what he has a talent in.
But you know what's funny? Nagisa is an example of what I'm talking about.
Yes, he is actually, yes.
Skills into his teaching.
Yeah.
So he is an example of incorporating your talents into your passion.
See, fucking Matsui's a great writer. He has some weird fetishes, but he's a great writer.
Exception of that one kendo manga, he's
like
a pretty solid
he
writer.
has some weird fetishes. But who in Japan doesn't? Show me a manga author that doesn't have a couple of weird fetishes.
You know, it's funny. I don't think Oda really has any weird fetishes, in that his fetishes are just voluptuous women.
Yeah, I guess.
That's not really weird. That's like almost the opposite. That's like incredibly normy.
Incredibly vanilla, yeah.
Yeah, so... Yeah, ironically, I think Oda might be an example of someone who
Ironically,
has
Oda is normal, which is not a sentence we ever thought we would be saying.
There's a difference.
We're not saying he's normal, but he's vanilla.
uh, but yeah, so again, it's a thing that's possible, and when I see people who don't make attempts to do that, that's as in We Never Learn. Like some of the most critically acclaimed works of literature in the world have been written with like mathematical tricks hidden inside them. And a lot of there is an entire field of axiomatic mathematics that doesn't really involve numbers so much as it does reasoning and like comprehension. So those are basically I already have reasons to hate We Never Learn. But the fact that from a Watsonian perspective, those characters didn't like put that level of effort in, and from a Doylean perspective that the author was too lazy to even think of that, it's just even more infuriating for me. And you know what's funny? I tried to make this argument when we were doing it on FMK, but I was much less articulate about it. And as a result, since it was on FMK, I have been brewing this argument in my head in the true anxiety, like crippling anxiety fashion of just
simulating. Having an argument after you've finished, or thinking up something for an argument after you've finished having the argument. Yeah.
Yes. Because I remember I got a lot of pushback because I wasn't very good at articulating.
Hey,
and I just came off as like
I don't think you got pushback from me because I hated We Never Learn. I didn't hate it for the reasons you hate it.
No, I didn't get pushback for hating We Never Learn. I got pushback for hating the fact that they their passions and talents were completely divergent. Because I was phrasing it in a way that made it seem like I don't respect freedom of choice, which. I mean, I guess to a certain extent I don't, but I put that with there's a lot of asterisks behind that. But yeah, it's like you have an example of a character in anime who is able to incorporate their talents into their passion. So that's just like, because I've like, there's another example. Oh, you know what? There was an example I was going to use.
Oh.
But it is, there's a way I can reframe this that does, in fact, make it, more interesting, I think.
Yeah.
I don't like it when characters who have advantages or privileges refuse to even interface with the idea of using them, even if it's in an appropriate fashion. And case in point, this is kind of why I hated Mercy for the first 3 books she was in. Right? Is like I was going to use an example from one of those horribly named but surprisingly high quality Chinese web novels I'm reading. There is a character, the main character in that, his entire thing is, though he got the cheat ability, which just gave him an inbuilt Dross level AI that allowed him to simulate stuff.
Yeah.
Apparently, in that universe, if you don't reach a certain level of advancement before you like hit full, like your body matures, if you don't lay the foundation before you like hit before puberty ends, you just are basically unable to progress further.
Right.
And he was in that situation because he was like, he was just a poor kid
Mm-hmm.
from his parents are literally farmers. Not even like warriors, they're just farmers. He's just a poor kid, and he got this AI stuck in his brain that allows him to like model and simulate and like do stuff, but he still has to put the work in. And even then, for the first like 200, 300 chapters of the book or the series, people keep telling him, well, your ceiling is this level because you didn't lay the foundation properly, and as a result you'll never really make it further. And the fact that he was able to succeed despite not having any sort of like backing from the settings equivalent of monarchs was considered like one of his strong suits, right? Like it was considered a huge point in his favor. And at one point, he meets the grandson of one of those said monarchs. And the grandson is considered to be a once in a 1,000-year prodigy.
Yeah.
Whose path to monarch is essentially guaranteed as long as he just follows in the footsteps of his grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
Explicitly chooses to stay outside of the family and only train in like publicly available techniques. And I think the big issue is that there is a point where in universe some of the characters are comparing the main character and this prodigal grandson, where they're like, oh, they're both impressive because they both managed to reach this high level while only making use of like very common low level publicly accessible techniques.
Yeah.
And not having that many resources. And then the main character rightly points out the difference is, in my case, it wasn't a choice. In his case, it was. And I think that is the crux of the issue. Right? Like...
the element of choice.
Yes. And so it like... tell me, what do you think? Do I not respect freedom of choice, or do I put too much value in choice? I don't know at this point, Mill. I'm very distressed.
I can absolutely understand your point of view here. I can absolutely understand your point of view, and it is, there is a certain amount of it being galling when, you struggle and struggle and struggle and get to a point, and then somebody can just do it easily, and like, oh, this is something I do day to day. So,
it's not even that. That's not what's galling to me. What's galling to me is when they're like, they can do it, but they like choose not to for a reason that isn't like, doesn't make a lot of sense.
So what sort of reasons would you say don't make a lot of sense?
Well, there's a lot of people who choose not to do things they're good at because they're good at them. Like, I have sadly met people who are like very good at something and are like, well, that's too easy, so I won't do it. That's just infuriating.
Mm-hmm. Alright, I can see that. Because yeah, I would.
Like, for example, I already gave you an example. One of the reasons I would absolutely see as a valid reason for not pursuing the thing you're talented in, burnout.
Mhm.
Absolutely. When if you not even burnout, but if you are not doing it because external pressures are trying to force you to do it,
Yeah.
I can respect that. That's like I can respect that degree of like sort of not wanting to be forced.
Okay, here's an interesting point then. Obviously, I brought up Assassination Classroom. There's an arc where this is sort of a kind of a key point of conflict,
Oh,
which is the Class 3 paintball war arc, where they're deciding whether they want to try and save Koro Sensei or continue to try and kill him after finding out his past, basically. That he's not a bad guy, and that
I remember that. I remember that arc. I'm just not.
Because the point is that this is when Nagisa and Karma come into conflict. And it's because
Yeah.
Karma is like, Nagisa, you are the most talented in assassination, and yet you're the one who doesn't want to assassinate him. Is that not insulting to those of us who have worked our asses off to be even half decent at assassination?
That's like painfully similar to my point, but it is. I
Yeah.
think you can also see the places where that's different
Yes.
because it's like, well, no, there is a compromise available, so we should take that, right? Like that. Like, I'm not inflexible on this.
Yeah.
I hope to.
Yeah, no,
say that.
I don't think you are. Again, it's just my brain, just coming up with these. Oh wow, this is an interesting parallel to what you are talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like Ass Class kind of had this
Kind of had
going,
this
huh?
unlock, didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, because not only did it have that whole thing of like talent and choice and the whole prodigies versus the frustrated non-prodigies, it even had the whole resolution at the end that these things are not mutually exclusive and that a compromise that is the best of both worlds is possible.
Yeah.
So,
And
wow.
this is going into why I love Ass Class so much. Like, it is.
Look, we all know why you love Ass Class.
There is an element of
Thirst.
not even thirst. There is just an element of Nagisa is honestly probably my favorite character in fiction, and it's not just a certain level of attraction to him, but also of I've written a thread that I on Twitter that I retweet every on his birthday, basically, of he struggles with self-esteem, which is something that I've struggled with a lot throughout my life, and to see him battle through it is really nice and really touching. And okay, I can't get over him. So, but it's not. But my point is, it's not just Nagisa's arc that is in Ass Class. There are absolutely other characters who have these arcs, and they're all to a certain extent good. Ass Class has an even bigger class than My Hero, and absolutely manages to. I don't think it's necessarily perfect in its ability to give every member of the class a spotlight, but I'll be damned if it doesn't at least try.
Look, you can just say outright that Horikoshi doesn't know how to write an ensemble.
I don't think it's necessarily that he doesn't know how to write an ensemble. I think it's a case of... I'm not sure. I think he gets... I don't necessarily want to say bored, but maybe distracted easily from characters.
I sometimes feel like Horikoshi is a character artist before he's a character writer, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I mean, that's
He
the thing.
will.
That's the thing. As much as I
come
love...
up with a cool concept,
Yeah.
and just introduce that as a character, and then just forget it existed.
Yeah. I want to make this clear. As much as I do love My Hero, and I do absolutely adore My Hero, it's not. Not perfect.
I think we have liked My Hero for long enough that the honeymoon phase has worn off.
Yeah.
And so we're able to be more reflective on its flaws. Which is important. Like, that's part of media literacy, is being able to critique things even when you love them. Especially when you love them.
I think I think to a certain extent that's sort of what fanfiction is really good for, or really will help you do, because it helps you look at things from different perspectives, and from perspectives you just would never have imagined. Or at least that's my take on it. Because again, I am a cis white male who, while isn't heterosexual, is, I don't know, I'm not, like, particularly up on the gay law or the bi law, or, whatever you want to say.
You're closer to, like, one end of the Kinsey scale than you are to the middle.
I'm not even necessarily saying that. I'm just saying, like, I'm not very good at looking at things analytically, especially from a, I'm gonna say, feminist perspective, not in the women's rights sense of the word, but the progressive sense of the word, if you know what I mean. That's
vaguely, yes.
Because that's something it took me a while to realize, is that, yeah, feminism is... There's two different types of feminism. There is the, the women's right version, which is obviously important, but there is a wider feminism that is about basically being progressive.
I am not going to make any comments on this because this is a minefield, and I hope you realize that.
Yeah, no, it is.
Because again, as you stated, it is this white man attempting to explain feminism.
Yes.
So, I get what you're trying to say.
It might not be doing it well, but...
I get what you're saying. I'm just, like, saying that, like, it's a very...
But, that's my point, and that's something that I came to realize through reading Anifem. Because, I did have the more narrower view of feminism. It was like, why are they talking about more stuff than just, female characters in these anime? And like, oh, there's more than one meaning to this word. That sort of thing. Anyway, point is that I'm not very good at recognizing that stuff, when something is portrayed poorly in a sexist way, or a racist way, or in a even necessarily, I've gotten better at these ones, I think, in a homophobic or transphobic way. And that is because I have the privilege of being a cis white male who basically passes for heterosexual most of the time.
That is certainly one of the easier things to pass as in the grand scheme of things.
But, you know, because I have that privilege, I don't always recognize when, you know, something is, you know, to use a certain term, a microaggression.
Which those are absolutely things that exist,
Yeah.
and I hate that people try to deny that they exist.
Yeah. 100%. 100% they exist. But as I said, I'm not good at recognizing them a lot of the time because, again, I don't have that experience not being a part of that, you know, those minority groups. And I think it's something that a lot of people... Jesus Christ. In talking, I'm getting distracted and dying. Something that... And this is going back to what we were talking about in the early part of the stream, the Hogwarts Legacy stuff. People have this privilege, and when they're called out on it, they become defensive because it's like, well, I didn't know this was wrong. How can you expect me to know this was wrong? And sometimes they double down on it. Because like, well, you know, I didn't know it was wrong, so I can't be wrong. You must just be being sensitive.
Yeah, it's one of the eternal issues is when it's the people take any sort of critique on something, any of their beliefs as a personal attack.
And again, this is something that I struggle with when I struggle with it less now, I think, but when I for a long time when I would see criticism of my hero, I would have to hold myself back from going on a big rant about why you are so wrong about this. And it's like, okay, no, I had to, you know, look at the opinion in question, go, all right, is this a valid viewpoint? You know, are they coming at this from a legitimate point, and are they coming at this from a point of, you know, not being a dick to be a dick sort of thing?
You know what I had trouble with? Not criticism, because as you know, I have always been a vocal critic of basically everything. What I used to have just an obscene amount of trouble with was when I liked a thing and then people refused to engage with the thing I like. I got this a lot. I had this issue a lot with One Piece, where I was like, people would just like make fun of One Piece without ever having actually engaged with One Piece.
Yeah.
Or like think about how it's too long and not worth the effort. And I would just have to like hold myself back from absolutely exploding.
And
I've
to be fair, we went through a similar thing with Jack and Cradle, because he didn't read it for a while, and we were all like, "Come on, please read it. We know you'll love it." And what we ended up doing was putting him off more.
Yeah, I'm again at the risk of committing that very same sin. I'm kind of in a similar boat with you and Trash of the Counts family as we stand now.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to put you off it, but I know you're going to love it when you start reading it. I know this in the same way that I knew that you and Jack would love Cradle.
Yeah.
when I recommended them to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to admit, I don't recommend things often, but my recommendations tend to be hits more often than misses.
No, and
Because
that is one of the good aspects of you having such high taste, is that when you do
yes, I
recommend
just
something, it's generally pretty fucking good.
yeah, because I have some might even say excessively high standards.
Yeah.
And so whenever I find something that meets those standards that I'm passionate about, I just try and I try and introduce it to other people to the point of forcing it on them. And I recognize that's a flaw, but it comes from a place. Well, if we want to get into real sob story hours, it comes from at its core, a lonely childhood where I never had friends to talk to about things I liked.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, oh, I have friends now. Now I want to talk to them about the things I like because I know they'll like them too.
Mm.
But so it's I think what a lot of people don't realize is that there's no such thing as a grown-up. We are all still children. From the day we are born to the day we die.
Mm.
It's just that we are able to, as we grow up and progress through society, we are able to put on masks and roles and filters as needed. And it's not that that's an unnecessary or unimportant thing. It's both, but growing up is less a process of a child becoming an adult and more of a process of a child learning to function in spite of themselves. At least that's my view on growing up. I am only like 25 going on 26 in a couple of months, so obviously I'm not necessarily... I'm not young, or like as much as a teenager, but I'm not old either, so I'm not necessarily the person to talk about this, but I do think we're all basically just children who have learned how to play pretend a little bit better. And I think there are certain things that are so close to that core of who we are, that like core child that we came into this world as, that we just tend to forget a lot of the conventions that we follow societally.
Mm.
This conversation became a lot more real than I think either of us was expecting it to get.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, overall, in terms of the growing up thing, I think there's an expectation that, Sorry, I'm just reading dialogue. Alright. I should probably heal. There's an expectation that to be an adult, you have to give things up that you enjoy doing. I've never really liked that.
And it's something that's just patently false, and I think most healthy, well, a lot of healthy adults will tell you that. There are genuinely people who I don't know what went wrong in their lives, but there are genuinely, I've met people who are like liking things is not cool.
Mm. And
Which is
yeah, I mean, I have a couple of hobbies. I'm not gonna say them because I am scared of judgment about them. That would probably be considered very childish, but I'm going to continue doing them because they're one of the few things that relaxes me. And it's like, well, why should I give up one of the few things that relaxes me because as an adult I shouldn't be doing it? Nah, fuck off. I'm not hurting anybody with it. I'm doing it in the comfort of my own home. Go fuck yourself.
And even beyond that, it's just like, yeah, I just don't understand like, who hurt those people
Mm,
that are like, well, if you have hobbies that are not like sports or something like that, you are
yeah.
just sports or like television sitcoms or big blockbuster movies, then there's something wrong with you. I've met those people.
Mm,
I grew up with some of those people.
yeah.
And in fact, I have in the case of some of my family members, I have witnessed those people as they grow older come full circle and realize, "Oh, I'm miserable by not liking things. I want to like things again."
Mm,
So it's been a very interesting arc to watch.
yeah.
But yeah, but yeah, getting back to the issue I was talking about is like, when there is something you are really passionate about, something that you connect with on like a deeper level than your general hobbies or passions, it becomes very hard to modulate that in regards to, like, it becomes hard to maintain boundaries regarding those things. And again, like, the most common thing, and I think as we've said, is like when you have something you really are passionate about and you want to, and you think or even know that someone else is going to like that thing just as much, and you recommend it to them,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes like difficult to separate the logical reasons that they're not immediately jumping on it from your initial emotional response of, but why not like thing that I like?
Yeah.
Or why not try thing that I try? Right? It's just like, it's a more base level thing. It's difficult to unlearn that.
Mm.
And on that somber note, we have been going for about 2 hours now, so I think
Have we? All right. I'll just go back to that bench I was at.
bonfire.
Bonfire, yes, basically.
There, yes, it's a bonfire. Yeah. Like, think what you will about the Soulsborne series as a whole.
Hmm.
It's definitely codified that entire genre.
Yeah. But, yes. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Hopefully we haven't depressed you too much. With some of our talk. I mean, I really love these streams because, again, it gets me thinking about things I would never have thought about otherwise.
And gives you a peek into the madness that is my brain.
But it's an interesting madness, Fuzzy. Very interesting.
Well, I mean, a lot of madness is.
Yeah.
It's by its nature.
But to be fair, you're more of the ooh, pretty colors madness than I am Princess Stabby Stab Kill Kill, to quote Dragon Age.
Yeah, no, I'm much more. Again, I'm like the chill stoner, except I'm like basically a straight edge.
Oh, I am full straight edge.
I say basically because I'm on prescription medication and I don't know how that affects it, but like...
I would argue that it's recreational. That
No,
counts
I
for
just... If
straight
it's
edge.
recreational, then I'm like...
That would be my
full
argument.
on...
I don't know if that's actually, again, something
No,
to
I
check.
think that's the... I think I think there's a difference between straight edge and substance free, and I think straight edge is definitely referring to the
A
recreational stuff.
subculture of hardcore punk whose adherents refrain from using alcohol, tobacco, and recreational drugs.
Oh, so there's the edge part as well as the straight part.
To be fair, it does also say some adherents refrain from engaging in promiscuous sex, follow a vegetarian or vegan diet, and do not use caffeine or prescription drugs. But you know, I think again, I think that's more of a. I think
Yeah, it's
I think that's just the distinction of vegetarian and vegan, sort of thing.
No, recreational substances like drugs, alcohol, I'm just... The one thing I might try one day is I might sign up for, if there's still clinical psilocybin trials going on in the area, I might just like try and drop in on one of those to be like, because like, I'm very interested. I do not want to trip.
Yeah.
But I am interested in the like potential benefits of psilocybin on mental illness.
But again, that wouldn't be recreational.
Well, if I trip, like if I have a good trip
but
as a side effect of that, I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, you're not doing it for recreation. You are doing it for mental health reasons.
If it just happens to give you a good trip,
if you happen to trip on it, then that is a side effect. That is not the reason you are doing it. Would be my take on it. Obviously, I'm not a big name in the hardcore punk scene, so I don't know if that'd get you kicked out of the club, Fuzzy. But
yeah, I don't think hardcore punk is really
really either of our scenes, is it?
Yeah. So maybe we're straight edge in spirit.
But yes, thank you for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed. In terms of future stuff, Fuzzy, how available are you over the next week?
Pretty available, honestly. I'm not available tomorrow, but we're not doing anything tomorrow anyway, so...
tomorrow now.
Yeah, I should be available. Like I said, I'll let you know, but like, we have a schedule. If I'm here, we're gonna do more of this madness. And if I'm not here, if like Gen's there for Tales of Arise on Thursday...
I'm at this point. I really want to finish. I really want to finish. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I really want to finish that. Which I'm totally okay with that as well. If you want to do that on one of those days, you can just let me know and I'll just chill. Think if you're saying you can be you think you're going to be available for Thursday and Saturday, I'm fine doing Hollow Knight those days and then Sunday because I am closing and therefore I don't know when I'd be able to start, or I think I'm closing and therefore I won't be able to start. I'll do it that day. Yeah, I'll do it Sunday.
We'll keep you guys posted and. Yes.
So again, thank you everybody for watching. Please do give us a follow here on Twitch and on Twitter as long as I will last on there because it's starting to get real fucking shit for me as well now. I got like a minor suspension apparently. But
how?
I don't know. Because I just opened up Twitter earlier, and I got a thing saying, we've temporarily limited some of your account features. Your account appears to be in violation of Twitter's spam policy. Because all I do nowadays is basically just like and retweet stuff. I barely post myself. I did post last night in response to somebody asking, "Oh, what was your gateway Yuri /BL?" And I was like, "Bloomin' to you for Yuri, given for BL." And I think that probably spoiled me because very few series can match up to those two.
Yeah.
So that was all I posted, and I just fucking look at that and go, okay, Twitter is bigoted, I guess.
That's
I mean, yeah,
shocking. I'm
absolutely shocking with
shocked. Well, not that shocked. It's
Yeah.
frightening. Yes.
But yeah, well, it's not just that. It's also the fact that I'm seeing a lot more promoted tweets and a lot more like blue tick tweets that I have no reason I should be seeing showing up. So all I want to do on there is like fan art, for fuck's sake, please. That's all. That's all I really do on there of any substance. I can go elsewhere for all the other stuff I do. I just let me like my fucking like queer fan art, please, and my found family fan art. Oh, that reminds me. Have you watched either of the Spider-Verses, Fuzzy?
I've watched the first one. I'll probably watch the second one at some point.
When it comes to streaming services.
Probably.
Yeah, that's fair. Just know that there is a like quartet in the second one that I've fallen in love with and will like any fan art with them in.
That seems about right.
Yeah. That's generally the way things go for me. I either find a ship I like or a like group of friends that I like and that I will just follow into the abyss if need be. But yes, follow us here on Twitch, follow us on Twitter, all that nice stuff. Go to our YouTube, for archives.
Apparently, people are.
Yeah, keep doing it. Keep doing it. It's gonna take us.
If you're seeing this on YouTube, maybe like come to our Twitch sometime.
Yeah.
Right?
Like maybe
that's
the
pattern here.
Yeah, if you can't because of like time, if you genuinely want to watch a stream but can't because of like the times we stream, let us know in the comments.
And give us a follow because that helps as well on Twitch. Even if you can't watch it live, you don't even have to turn notifications on for the follow. Honestly,
no.
Great that they separated those now.
Yeah. But,
so you don't have to be woken up at 3 in the morning when one of your like random streamers decides to do a drunk stream.
Are you talking about the Canadian again, Fuzzy?
No, he does not do. He is if we're straight edge, he is like a metric ruler.
Okay. Anyway, thank you again for watching, and hopefully we'll see you on Thursday when we will hopefully be doing more Hollow Knight and talking weird stuff.
Not that weird.
Weird philosophy stuff.
It's not philosophy.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.